Hi, welcome to our presentation today. We're going to be looking at the setup and customization of Zoho CRM. This is the second part in a two-part webinar series. The first part is Zoho CRM Basics. My name is Laura. I'll be your host for today's presentation. I'm one of our product marketing managers here at Zoho, and I'm happy to be with all of you today. So today we're going to be diving into the setup and customization of your Zoho CRM account. We're going to spend some time looking at some of the basic data sharing settings that you can set up between your users and those permission settings. We're also going to look at customization options like adding custom fields, changing your page layouts. So that really allows your CRM to look and feel the way you want it to for your business. And then we're going to jump into some really cool features. They're some of my favorite features, and those include automation tools like workflow automation and updating your data quickly and easily inside your CRM. And to wrap up, we'll look at how to set up your spreadsheet for importing data into your CRM. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started with setting up users and permissions in your Zoho CRM account. As the administrator, you're going to be the primary contact on your account. So this means that you will need to be the person who invites users to join your CRM account. Do not have them go to our website and sign up for a new account. That will be creating a whole nother CRM account, and they won't have access to your company's data. So as the administrator, definitely send that invite to the users who you want to have access to your CRM account. You're also the responsible person for deactivating users who are no longer with your company, or if you need to add new licenses to your Zoho CRM account, you're also going to be that person, the main contact, if you will, of your CRM account. When you add new users, you can assign another user as an administrator on your account. Just keep in mind that administrators do have access to all of your data in your CRM, and so it's probably not a good idea to give everyone administrator access. So be selective and then set up specific roles and profiles for those other users so they only have access to the data that you want them to have access to. But as the administrator, you can change your page layouts, you can create custom fields, you can set up roles and profiles and do all of that for your specific users. So just keep that in mind, as well as anyone that has administrator access will be able to change your page layouts and add custom fields and things like that. I want to go ahead and define the difference in like roles and profiles and what those mean when you're setting them up in your CRM. And then we're going to jump and do a demo and I'll show you how to create those. So a specific user of your CRM will have an individual license assigned to them, and that's going to be their sent to their email address. They will accept that invitation that you send them, and the email address that you send the invitation to is going to be the email address that they log into your CRM account with. Once you invite a user, you assign them a profile and a role. So profile are going to be your module level permissions. So that's going to be like your leads, your accounts, your contacts. Those are modules inside your CRM. And so a profile is going to set the permission settings for what a specific user can see or do inside a specific module. So keep that in mind when you're setting up a profile. Roles are going to be based on your organizational hierarchy. So who has access to what data, who reports to who. So you can kind of look at your current organization structure and then set up your roles in your CRM based on that. And then groups are just another way of sharing data among your different users, and those can be created from a combination of either individual users or a specific role, or if you're using our enterprise edition of Zoho CRM, you can include an entire territory. So it can be one or all of those. It can be a mix of those items as well to create a group. So it's just another way of sharing data among your user. All right, and then next, before I jump into our demo, I wanted to talk a little bit about customization in your CRM and the possibilities that are available to you when you're customizing your account. Any of the existing fields that you see inside Zoho CRM, you can modify those, you can change their names, you can even change the names of the modules that you see when you log into your CRM. So for example, If you don't call a lead, you call it a prospect. You could change the name of that module to prospect just so that it's familiar within your company and your employees recognize what they're supposed to do inside that module. You can also create your own fields. You can create custom sections in your specific module on the page and then create custom fields in that section. It's just a way to divide your data. You can designate any of your fields as mandatory fields. So that would require your user to enter data into that field before they could save a record. You can also change the page layouts of your module so that each module looks and feels the way you want it to, and it's also collecting the data that you need in order to run your business correctly and for your employees to do their job well. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to our product demo and take a look at some of the customization options available. Okay, so when you log into your CRM, this is going to be your home screen. So today we're going to spend most of our time under the setup option here on the right hand corner. So if I go ahead and click on setup, I'm going to see a list of options to choose from. Today we're going to touch on users and permissions, customization, automation, and then a little bit on data administration as well. So we'll start with users and permissions since we've already talked about those. When you click on users and permissions, you're going to see a list of all of your users that have access to your CRM if you've already invited folks to join your CRM. If you have not invited anyone, this is going to be where you, as the administrator, can invite a new user or add a new user. And you would just click on add new user, you type in their name, last name, their email, assign them a role. Very easy to do that. We're going to go ahead and talk about profiles and roles and how to set those up and what those mean. So remember, a profile is going to be the module level permissions that you assign a specific user. So what a user can see or do inside a specific module. And you'll have a couple default profiles. You have administrator and then a standard profile that are by default in your CRM. We're going to create a new profile. So I'll click on new profile. I'm going to go ahead and name this profile. Let's say we're creating a profile for my sales team. So we'll just say sales team. And so anyone that joins my sales team, when I add them to my CRM, I'm going to assign them to this specific role. I'm going to clone the standard profile, which is just going to clone the settings from that profile, make it a little bit easier, and click on save. So now I have my new profile created. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit here at the top. And you'll see that all those little green check marks turned into blue boxes. And this is going to be where you assign the different permissions for each specific module in your CRM. So you can go down your list of modules here on the left-hand side, and then you can decide if you want this specific user who's assigned to this profile to be able to view, create, edit, or delete the data that's associated with this specific module here on the left-hand side. So for example, if we're creating a profile for our sales team, we probably don't want them to be able to delete leads. So I'm going to uncheck the delete box. I don't want them to be able to delete accounts or contacts or potentials, any of the above. But I do want them to be able to create new leads and accounts, to be able to edit those records, and of course to see those records. So you can set up those permissions for this specific profile however you want. If you continue to scroll on down, you're going to see some other permission options. For example, your import and export permissions. If I was creating this profile for my sales team, I probably don't want them to be able to export any leads or contacts. That way, if they decide to leave my company, they're not going to be able to take their data with them as easily. It's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that. So I'm going to uncheck export potentials, export accounts, and so they will not be able to export their leads or their contacts from their CRM. But it's probably a good idea to make sure that they have import permissions because you want them to add new leads if they go to a trade show or they're out meeting new people, to be able to import those leads easily. Your tool permissions are going to be what that specific user can do with specific records in your CRM. So if you want them to be able to mass delete records or mass transfer records, this is going to be where you set that up. I'm not going to explain all of the individual permission settings, but you can go through and configure this profile based on what type of permission level you want the user to have with the data in a specific module. Once you've set it up, you can click on Save. Of course, you can always go back in and edit this profile and give them more or less permissions based on how your company grows or what's needed from individuals who are assigned to this specific role. So that is how you set up your profiles for your team. Let's go ahead and look at roles. Now remember, this is going to be based off your organization's hierarchy. So kind of think of who reports to who. And so let's say we have our CEO at the top here. We have our managers. So all of our managers that we hire are going to be assigned to this role. Then we are going to create a new role. And we're going to say this will be our sales rep role. And this person is going to report to one of our managers. And then you'll see this little checkbox here that says share data with peers. This is going to be where you decide if anyone that's assigned to this role would be able to view or see the data of someone else that's assigned to this role. So you can determine if it's important for your team to share information or data or if it's not. We'll go ahead and check yes, it is, and we'll click on Save. So if we go back to our role list, you'll see that we have, or building our tree out, we now have our CEO, we have our managers, and our sales reps. So you can kind of think of it as a tree. Anyone at the top of the tree would be able to see all of the data of those below them. Anyone at the bottom of the tree would not be able to see any of the data of the roles above them. But anyone that's on the same branch, you can determine if they share data among their other users or not. All right, so from here, we're going to go back to our setup options, and we're going to talk about customizing your CRM. So let's click on customization. You're going to see a list of all of your modules on this first page. And if you notice that if you hover to the right of the module name, you'll get a little drop down that says edit, rename, module permissions, convert lead mapping, map dependency fields. And so you'll have different options depending on which module you hover over. So for example, if we wanted to change the name of our leads module, we wanted to call it our prospects module, we can do that by clicking on rename. We can type in the new name, click on save, and then when we scroll up, you'll notice that in the navigation bar, that module name has been changed. I'm going to go ahead and change it back to leads just for our purpose today. We'll keep it easy, and we'll say, so it changed it back to leads, you can see. We're going to go ahead and talk about adding custom fields, and then we'll talk about mapping your fields in your CRM modules. So we'll click on fields, and each module will have its own list of fields that are associated with that specific module. So depending on what module you're working in will depend on what type of fields you see. So here you can change modules by clicking on the drop down. You'll see a list of your modules, and when you click on it, you'll notice that the fields below will change. So these are going to be your default fields, or the fields that you've added to your pages inside these specific modules. We're going to stay in our leads module for our demo today, and I'm going to go ahead and we'll click on edit layout over here on the right hand side. And so when I edit the layout, it's going to give me the opportunity to drag and drop and change what data I see when I log into my CRM and I click on a lead record. So maybe you don't need all of this data. Maybe you only need to collect first name, last name, email, phone number, and address. Well, you can remove everything else by clicking on the little trash can next to the right-hand side of that specific field. And what that does, it just removes that field from being visible on your page inside your module. You can always go and add it back. So for example, if you removed a field that had data in it and it went to your unused fields, which are listed over here on the left-hand side, and if you drag that field back to your page layout, it's going to repopulate the data that previously existed. So we can drag that back to our page layout, and now it's visible again. So you can drag and drop your fields, the default fields that exist in your CRM, pretty easily. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll have your list of new fields, which we're going to talk about here in just a second. And then any fields that maybe either you've created or that you've removed from your page layouts will be listed under unused fields. Okay, so once we've gotten our page layout, maybe we want to add a custom field. So let's talk about how to add custom fields. You can see that there are many choices of types of fields that you can choose to add to your CRM. And one thing to note and take away with you from this presentation is that when you're adding a custom field, you want to think about the type of data that you're adding to your CRM. So for example, if you're adding another email address and you want to make sure that the system recognizes it as an email address, you want to choose the email address field. Same for phone number, URL, currency. You just want to make sure that you choose the correct field. So the system recognizes, oh, this is an email address. It'll make the link clickable for you. So when you click on that email address, you'll be able to send that customer an email. You could add a single line field, and that's just going to be a text field. And you could type that email address in there, but it's going to be frustrating when you go to email that person and that link's not clickable and you have to copy and paste that email address, and it's just extra steps that none of us want to have to deal with. So when you're creating custom fields, just make sure that you choose the correct field type. Let's go ahead and add a custom pick list field. And so a pick list is a drop-down list of predefined values that you can choose, or you can assign those values and then you can choose from when you're in your lead record. So if I am going to add a pick list field, I'm going to choose pick list. I'm going to drag it over and drop it where I want to place it. I'm going to rename it. Let's say that I am a real estate agent. We'll call these clients. And I deal with both buyers and renters. So when I enter a lead into my system, I want to distinguish if they're a buyer or a renter so that it gets assigned to my correct agent. So under my pick list options, I'm just going to have two options here, buyer and renter. You could add multiple options. It's up to you. And so once you have set your pick list values or your options, you want to look down here at the bottom and you'll see this little section that says also create for. So keep in mind that you're only going to see that little section when you are creating a custom field in your leads module. And I'll explain why that's important here in just a second. So what this is going to do is create this custom field not only in our leads module, but also in our maybe account module or contact module and our potential module. You don't have to create it in all three. You can just create it in one or two, or you can do it all three. It's up to you. So we're going to go ahead and create client type in our account and contact modules. Now this is going to be important because when you add new leads to your CRM and you convert those leads, when you convert that lead, it creates a new account, contact, and potential record. So your lead record no longer exists and you have three new records. Well, if you've created a custom field in your leads module, the data in that custom field has to go somewhere when you convert it. If you don't have that custom field created in one of your other modules when you convert it, you're going to lose that data. So it's really important that when you create a custom field in your leads module, that you also create it for your account module, your contact, or your potentials module, or all three. So once you've decided where else you're going to create this custom field, click on Done. And now we can see that we have a custom field listed here. If I want to make any field mandatory, if I hover to the right-hand side and click on Settings, you'll see Mark as Required. So if I click on that, it's going to put a little red asterisk next to the field name, distinguishing it as a required field. So this is going to require my users to enter data in that field before they can save a record. If you're a B2B, you'll maybe want to make this company name mandatory. Any data that's in the company name field, when you convert a lead, that's going to be the name that creates the account module. The last name field is going to be what creates the contact record. So if you're a B2C and you're not dealing with organizations or companies, so you have no use for that data, make sure that that field is not marked as required. And so when you convert a lead and there's no data in the company field, it's not going to create an account record. So you just create the contact record, and then you can go and assign potentials or open deals to that specific contact. So once you have your custom fields added, we can click on Save Layout, and then we can move on and we can change and go to the next module. We can change the page layout, we can do add custom sections, it's up to you. All right, so we want to talk about automation for a few minutes and look at some of the benefits to automating some of your processes in Zoho CRM, and then what's possible, like what kinds of things you can automate inside your CRM system. So there's several ways you can automate new leads that come in. You can assign them to specific sales reps. And so for example, from our example earlier, if you're a realtor, for example, and you have both buyers and renters, and a lead comes in that's a rental lead, you would maybe want to assign it to a specific salesperson that takes care of all your rental leads. So you can set that up so it automatically happens, and then you can create follow-up tasks from there, and so that salesperson is automatically reminded to follow up with that new rental lead. And then you can create approval records so that when they add a potential, you as the manager can approve it before they can continue working on that record. So auto assigning leads, when leads come into your CRM or when new records come into your CRM, you can do it based on contacts or leads. You want to delegate those leads to your team, and there's a couple ways you can do that. You can do it round robin style so that new records are distributed evenly among all of your team members, or you can do it just to a specific rep, or you can do it to you can choose who you want to do it. So you can create a group of like 2 or 3 people, and then those leads are just distributed among those 3 people. Auto assignment of records into your CRM works with your web to contact or web to lead forms. It's a feature available inside Zoho CRM. So you create a contact form inside Zoho CRM, you take that code, put it in your website on your Contact Us page, or your lead or your landing page where you're generating leads, and then anytime someone fills that information out on that landing page or that Contact Us page, the information automatically goes into your Zoho CRM and assigned to the correct person. So there's no lag or gap in between the lead coming in and the amount of time that it takes to get assigned to the correct salesperson. So that's going to result in quicker follow-up, quicker turnaround time for your sales team, and your potential customer is going to be a lot happier because they received a follow-up much quicker than if it had to go to an email address and then wait around for someone to manually enter it into the CRM and then have someone follow up. So auto assignment also works with importing a spreadsheet of data. So if you have a list of leads that maybe you received from a trade show or something and you want to upload that into your CRM, you can do that, and you can automatically assign those leads, again, round robin style or to a specific person. Just a few automation tools I'm going to touch on here when we jump into our demo. I'm going to show you how to mass update your records or mass delete them, how to change the ownership, and then we're going to set up a workflow automation rule, and that is one of my favorite features that I enjoy sharing with our potential customers and current customers, and they always find it useful because it, one, saves a ton of time because you're not having to manually go in and enter a task or send the customer an email, and it in the long run reduces your operating costs because you don't have to hire an administrator to set reminder tasks, send customer emails when they sign up, and things like that. So it really just improves your efficiency and consistency across your organization. So let's go ahead and talk about building workflow rules. These are I'm going to show you in our product how to do it. I just kind of want to set up the scenario before we jump into the demo. And so our example we're going to use is staying along the same lines of rental leads coming in or buyer leads coming in. If I'm a real estate agent, what happens when that lead comes in to my system, I want an email to go out automatically, maybe with my product brochure or some information that's going to be useful to maybe a new home buyer. And so I want that as soon as that lead comes in, I want that email to go out. And then I want to schedule a follow-up reminder so that my sales rep knows they need to contact this person immediately. So just a couple workflow actions that are possible inside your CRM. Like I mentioned, you can send an email alert. You can send it to a specific user, to a specific lead, to an entire group. You can also create a task. So if you want to assign a task to a specific person to follow up, or to maybe follow up in 3 weeks, you can do that. You can also do a field update. And so if you change the status of a field, maybe it'll change the status of another field in your CRM. And so you can do that automatically. So it's going to help you keep the same process, stay consistent across your organization. There are also a couple of advanced workflow actions. I don't cover those in today's presentation, but there are other training videos available covering webhooks. So those are going to be working with third-party websites. And so maybe you have something that triggers coming from a third-party website that's going to trigger a workflow action in your CRM. You can set that up. And then we have custom functions, and you'll have to have knowledge of Deluge scripting in order to set that up. We do have training available. And we have a team who can help guide you if you have questions around setting up custom functions. So feel free to check out our other resources around advanced workflow actions. And then approval processes. This is going to be when a record is entered into your CRM. And as a manager, maybe you want to be notified of any deal that's over $20,000 and you want to approve it or reject it before the sales rep can continue working on that deal. So you can set up these approval processes for that to happen. And it's just going to automate. So the salesperson enters a deal and you're automatically going to be notified that a record needs your approval, or you can reject it. And once you approve or reject that deal, then it will can trigger another action like send an email, update a field, things like that. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over back to our demo and we'll demonstrate this. All right, so we're back in our product and let's go ahead and click on automation. So I'm back under the setup tab. If you're wondering where we're at, if you click on setup, you'll be taken back to this screen. We're gonna click on automation and we're gonna build a workflow rule. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on create rule. From there, I'm gonna select the module that I want this rule to be associated with. So we're going to select our lead module because any rental lead that comes in, we want to send an email to them, and we also want to schedule a task for follow-up. So we're going to name this workflow rule new lead follow-up. We're going to click on next. The second step is I need to create a rule trigger. So what am I going to do in my CRM that's going to trigger this rule? You can do it based on a record action, so like creating a record, which is what we're going to do, or you can do it based on a date field value. So I'm going to click on a record action, and then I can decide if I want it to be triggered every time I create a new record in my leads module, or edit, or create or edit, do a field update, or delete. We're just going to do every time I create a new record in my leads module, when that new lead gets added, I'm going to trigger this workflow rule. The third step is creating your filter of your data. So do you want this to happen on every single lead that comes in, or specific types of leads? So since we only want it to happen, this workflow rule to trigger on new rental leads that come in, I'm going to click on the drop down here and click on my client type field. That's that custom field that we created earlier. And I'm going to say client type is a renter. And so anytime a new lead comes in that's set to client type as a renter, it's going to trigger this rule. Now I can go ahead and continue filtering down. So if I only want rental leads that are in a specific zip code or in a specific city or state, I could do that by clicking on the plus sign and adding another filter. So I can do state is Texas, and I can continue filtering down so I can get as detailed or as generic as I want in this setting the rule criteria. So we'll keep it simple for today. We'll just say any lead that comes in that's a rental lead is going to trigger this workflow rule. Next step is creating the action. So what's going to happen once this workflow rule is triggered? And I'm going to, one, send an alert. This is going to be the email that goes out to the customer. And so we'll say new rental lead welcome email. I'm going to choose my email template. So if I haven't created an email template, I can do so by clicking on create templates. And from there, you can type in your email. You can add links, you can add documents, and set up your email template and then save it, come back to the screen, and that email template will be listed here. So I'm going to choose my email template that I've already created, first email with brochure. Then I'm going to choose who is going to receive this email. So I want this email to go out to the email address that's associated with the lead record. So that new lead, they just filled out their contact form on my website. It got pushed to my CRM. They entered their email address, and so I want this email to go to that email address. So I'm going to click on lead email. So that's going to be the email address associated to the lead itself. Then I can maybe send it to the lead owner. That's going to be the person in my organization who's responsible for following up with this lead, just to notify them that they have a new lead, that a new email went out. I could also send this email to other recipients who are non-Zoho CRM users. So I could type in an email address here, and this email would also be copied to that email address. I'm going to click Save and Associate. So now I have my email alert scheduled, ready to go out. And now I can assign a task. So I'm going to click on Assign Task. This is going to be follow up with new lead. I'm going to schedule the due date 1 day past the workflow rule trigger date. You can do it minus or plus. We'll say not started at high, and then I can choose who I want this specific task assigned to. So if you leave the field blank, then the task is automatically going to be assigned to the record owner, and that's going to be whoever is responsible for following up with that lead. Or I can assign it to someone else in my organization. So maybe I have an administrator who makes all the first phone calls for these leads and filters them out. So I could assign it to a specific person in my organization. You can notify the person that it's assigned to, hey, you have a new task. You can even set a reminder either on the same due date, 1 day before or 1 week before. That's up to you. And you can set the alert to send them a reminder via email or through a pop-up window. So when they log into their CRM system, they'll get a little pop-up with all their tasks that are due for that specific day. I'm going to click on Save and Associate. And so now I have my task and my email alert set up. So I can click on Save, and I'll go back to my workflow rules. Let's see here. And we'll see that that new rule that I just created is listed there. If I need to edit any piece of that workflow rule, I can click on the alert, and this alert is going to be that email that I created for that workflow rule. So I can go in and edit and make changes to that email that goes out. I can also make changes to the task. So say Mike left our company, I need to assign this task to someone else. I can just go in and edit the task. I do not have to create a whole new task or a whole new workflow rule to get that set up. Assignment rules are going to be set up very similarly as a workflow rule. So you can click on your module that you want to set up the assignment rule with. It works with your leads, contacts, and cases. And so for our example, we're going to say any lead that comes in that's a buyer lead. We've already got one set up here. I'm just going to delete that. We're going to assign this buyer lead to a specific salesperson in our organization. So I'm going to click on new rule. We'll say buyer leads. Click on Save. I'm going to create the rule entry. So again, setting your criteria. This is the filter of your data so your system knows which records it should trigger. And we'll set the client type is, this time we'll do buyer. And again, you can continue filtering down. You can assign this to a specific person, or you can assign it to round robin style. So I'm going to do round robin style, and when you can select specific users. So if I want it to bounce back and forth between different users, then I can just add those 2 users to the left or the right hand column. And so as buyer leads come in, it'll just ping back and forth between the 2 of us. Or you can do it based on roles. So if you have a sales group role that's just for buyer leads, then, or maybe all of your real estate agents are assigned it and you want them round robin style, you could assign this specific role, and then those leads would be distributed evenly among all of your agents. You can also schedule a follow-up task from here if you want to do that. And so then the task would be assigned to the person who's assigned this specific lead, and we'll click on save. So now any lead that comes in that is a buyer is going to be assigned to one of 2 reps that are responsible for all of our buyer leads. Approval processes are again created very much in the same way as your assignment rules or your workflow rules. The only difference is, let's say that we're going to say a potential. So anytime a potential that's over 20K is created in our system, we want to be able to approve that record. You could also do it based on a record edit. So say someone's going in and editing your potentials and you want to approve any edits to a specific potential that's added, then you could just do record edit. And so that way, anytime one of your employees goes in and edits a potential record, you would need to approve it before they can continue working with it. So we'll keep it simple and we'll say record creation, and then you can add a rule. Again, select your criteria. So the approval process is the amount is greater than 20,000. You can choose who approves it. So it can be either a specific user or a specific role. So maybe you have any of your managers can approve these edits, and you can assign that to them. Then you can decide what happens when a record is approved. You can assign a task. So you could say, once you approve a record, it automatically assigns a task letting the person who owns the record know that their record has been approved. You can do a field update. You can send an email notifying them. That's up to you. You can also decide what happens when you reject an approval process. So if someone edits a potential record and you're like, no, this isn't correct, you reject it. Maybe you want to send the person who created that record an email saying something was wrong. Please double check your information and then resubmit your potential. So that's up to you, and you can schedule those alerts much the same way that you did when we scheduled an email alert for your workflow automation. All right, so now I want to go back to our contacts. And let's say I want to do some mass updating of my records. So there's a couple ways you can update your records. You can select any of the records that you see. So if you want to select them all, you can click those, the little square next to contact name. Under more actions, there are a few options. Mass update is one of them. So if you want to update all of these records and assign them to the same field or the same industry, for example, then you can choose the field that you want to update. So let's go ahead and let's say that we want to assign all of these to a specific state. And let's just say we assign all of these records to Texas. I click on save. So now all of these records are assigned to Texas. So if I click on any of them and I scroll down to the mailing state, that field is going to be set to Texas. So I'll go back to my contacts. I'm going to edit my custom view here. And so that I want to see the state listed on the screen that I'm looking at right now. So I'll click on edit. I'm going to find mailing state over here on the left-hand side. I'm going to add it to the column. I'm going to click on save. And so now I can see that Texas is my mailing state for all of these contacts. If I want to send a mass email, I can do that by choosing all the contacts that I want this email to go to. I can click on send mail. Again, you'll need an email template to be able to send to them, so you'll have to create an email template and you can send that email to them, and then it would log it in their account record. You can also create a task, the same task for all of these records. So it's going to create individual tasks in each of these people or these contacts records. And so when you go to Kevin, you might have a follow-up task, you might have a schedule lunch, whatever task you're setting, you can do that quickly and easily and assign that task to all of your contacts in one swoop. A couple more tools I want to mention. This is going to be your an easy way to update multiple fields quickly. It's going to be your Zoho sheet view. And if you click on the little, looks like a spreadsheet next to the printer icon on your right-hand side of your page, it's going to pull in this data into a spreadsheet form, and it's going to let me edit all of these records. Let's say I need to change some information on here, and not all of these are Texas leads. So once I've updated all my information, I click on save. It's updating those records, and then we're going to go back and we're going to check our CRM. We're going to hit refresh, and we will see that our records have been updated with those changes that I made on that spreadsheet. So it's just a quick way to update all your records if you have multiple edits on your data. One other tool I will mention before we jump back to our presentation. Here on the right-hand side under Contact Tools, you're going to see a deduplicate contacts. If you're in your leads module, it's going to say deduplicate your leads. If you click on that, you can choose which field you want to check for or search for duplicate records. So we'll say we want to see if there's any duplicate email records, and we'll see all of our contacts that have duplicate emails are going to be listed here. So if I click on one of them, click on next, then I can decide the search field that I'm going to look for. This is going to search the email address field, and it's finding these two records. And so I can click on the two records to merge them, and click on next, and then from there I can choose if I want to select which records I want to select to merge. And so I can choose the record set of the first record, and then click on merge, and it's going to create one contact with both of these records. And so now I'll just have one contact with that email address instead of the two. So that's a way to maintain and update your records and keep them clean so that your data is nice and clean inside your CRM. And you can do that for any of your modules in your CRM. So when we jump back to our demo, I'm going to show you how to do a data import on an Excel spreadsheet and some things you need to do to set up your spreadsheet. We often get asked, what do you do with our data once we bring it over to Zoho or once we import it into your CRM? And your data belongs to you. If you bring it to Zoho, you can certainly take it. We don't sell your data. We don't use it. Your data is your data. So on all of our paid editions, you receive 2 free data backups per month. If you're on our free edition or you want additional backups per month, there's a small fee associated with those backups. And when we jump into our demo, I will show you where you can request a data backup as well. So let's go ahead and go over back to our product, and then we'll come back to our presentation. All right, so when you do a data import, you want to make sure that your spreadsheet is set up correctly. So I'm just going to give you a few pointers before we do our import of our data. You want to make sure that the first row has the names of the fields in your CRM where you're going to be importing your data. So first name, make sure those field names match. Also, if it is a mandatory field, and we know that last name is a mandatory field in Zoho CRM, you want to make sure that you have data in all of the cells below that column. Otherwise, it's going to skip the import. If it's a mandatory field and it's a blank cell, it won't do the import of your data. So just make sure you can do a quick control or find all your blank cells, make sure there's a value in that cell in order to do the import. You can import pick lists. So we know that industry, for example, is a pick list, which is a drop-down field with predefined values in our CRM. You'll just want to make sure that the options in your CRM under that pick list are also options on your spread, or vice versa. The options that are listed here on your spreadsheet are also options that are already in your pick list in your CRM. So that way the field will get imported correctly. You can add a import a checkbox field. And so where a 1 is true, it'll have a check mark. A 0 is false, it won't have a check mark. You can also import a date field value. It needs to be a 2-digit month, 2-digit day, and a 4-digit year if you're importing a date. And you also, one tip to keep in mind is you will want to remove any formulas or special symbols like $ that you have in your spreadsheet that you're importing. And so you could just save it as a .csv file and then import that CSV file so that you have a clean spreadsheet when you do your import. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and we're going to delete this column. I'm going to save my spreadsheet, and then we're going to go back to our CRM and do this import. All right, so I'm back in our product and I'm going to do an import of my leads. I'm in my leads module. We've already talked about how to add leads manually in our CRM Basics webinar. So today we're covering importing leads in our setup and customization. So I'll click on importing leads and I'm going to go ahead and import my leads. I'm going to choose my file. So since I've just set up my file, it should just be at the top here. Click on lead import. Now you have to decide what you want to have happen when you do a import, or if there's a duplicate record. So the CRM is going to check the email address field that you're doing an import for, and it's going to, if there's a duplicate email address already in your CRM, then you have to decide what happens to that duplicate record. So for example, you can skip that record so it won't do another import. You can overwrite, so the data on your spreadsheet will replace the data in your CRM. Or you can do a clone, and so that creates another record with the same email address. And that's what we're going to do today on our import. So we'll click on next. So once you do the import, the next step is to map your fields. So you'll have your CRM field here on the left-hand side, and then your imported field is going to be listed here on the right-hand side. If you've named your field on your spreadsheet correctly, it should automatically map correctly. If you didn't, or there was like a typo or something, then you can just click on the drop down of the imported field and choose the correct field. So client type, we had named it customer type on our spreadsheet, so I just want to make sure that the data in the customer type field gets mapped to the client type field in my CRM. So once you have your fields mapped correctly, click on next. And if there were any issues in setting up that map process or importing your leads, you'll be notified on this screen. So for example, I have a field labeled title on my spreadsheet, but it was not mapped to any of my Zoho CRM fields, so that either is not going to be imported, or I can go back, add a custom field in my CRM, and then remap my field so that that data in the title field gets imported. For our demo today, it's not important for me to have our title field imported, so I'm just going to go ahead with my import and click on import. Now, depending on your file size, it might take a few minutes to do the import, but with Zoho CRM, you can continue working in the background. There's no excuses, or go grab a cup of coffee or something, and that import will continue working in the background. You'll receive an email notification when that import is completed, and so you can go back into your CRM and check those records. So if I go back to my lead module, I choose my custom view and I'll choose recently created leads, you'll see the list of leads that we just did, just imported. If you have any questions in regards to importing data in your CRM, definitely check out our CRM help guide. It's on our website, and it will offer step-by-step instructions on how to do an import. Importing data into any of your modules is going to be a very similar process. All right, so I think that is going to wrap up our demo for today. I'm going to go back to our slides, and I'll give you a few resources, and then we'll sign off. So here's just a list of contact information. If you haven't been able to speak to one of our account executives, feel free to give us a call. The number is there on your screen. You can also send us an email at sales@zohocorp.com if you have any questions. We do offer free online training. We have 2 courses available for Zoho CRM specifically. One covers the Zoho CRM Basics, the content that was covered in the Zoho CRM Basics webinar. And then we have the administrator course available, which covers the content that was covered in today's presentation, as well as a few more resources that were not covered in today's presentation. So definitely check out our free online training. You can sign up for a free account on the Udemy website, and then make sure that you check out our CRM help modules. Lots of information, step-by-step instructions on how to set up your CRM. And of course, if you are not interested in setting up your CRM yourself and you want to hire a third-party consultant, we have a list of certified consultants that we recommend on our website. You can check those out. All right, so that's going to wrap up our presentation for today. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and we hope to see you on a webinar again soon.